Hey guys, it's me, Harvey Studios, and I'm back with another video. Now, this video is about what if the top 20 economies went to war. Now, this will include like the top 10 economies will be in one section, and then the other bottom 10, like not bottom 10, but 10 till 20. Those economies will also be in one batch. So, as we can see here, the US, Canada, France, Italy, Germany, the UK, the PRC, Japan, South Korea, and India. These are all in the top 10. And then after that comes Russia, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Switzerland, the Netherlands, Spain, Brazil, Mexico, Indonesia, and Australia. So, yeah, now let's start with the main video. First of all, there will be a war declared between both the sides. For some bizarre reason, I don't really know the reason, but there will be some war declared. One rule of this major war of this scenario will be though that no other nation can be attacked, and no allies are allowed. So anyway, let's start this. So as we most of us know, India, China, Russia, and the US are the top four most powerful armies in the world. But now, and here military strength will be a big thing. And because there's large military strength in the blue area, it looks like it's pretty one-sided. But let's see how it plays out. So it will start off with one particular nation which has always been neutral, Switzerland, getting out of neutrality and declaring war. And that will be that will instantly be suppressed because it is bordered with all these three enemies of it. So they will quickly take it out in a couple of hours, even though the Alps are there. And yeah, and same thing with the Netherlands, who also declare war and are taken out quickly by the Germans. These two economies lost. Now it will be time for one second, I'm just modifying this. Now it will be time for the Pacific to show the red nations of the Pacific to show their power. So basically, Australia and Indonesia will make one landing on the southern tip of India, another landing on the southern tip of China, and one more landing on the southern island of Japan. They'll take out the southern island of Japan. Sorry, not the whole thing. But they'll be dragged out, but really pushed out by the local public. Then in China, they will cut off China from their other island of Hainan. I forgot to color Hainan, I don't know why. And they'll also take out Hainan. But then again, the locals will drive them out. And in India, before they even get the opportunity to push ahead, the locals in South India will push them out. So yeah, the war isn't going as planned for the red side because they already lost two of the nations. Even though they were small nations, they still lost two nations. Now it'll be a major thing with Russia and Turkey pushing in from the east and Spain pushing in from the west. So Spain will get a large army. It'll make its army pretty big and strong, buffed up particularly, and it'll push in to Spain, into France. And because the French military was here in this region conquering Switzerland, they'll have a hard time getting back. Meanwhile, jets from Russia will make air landings in parts of Germany and send troops down. And same thing from Turkey to Italy. Italy will also face such a disaster. However, once the French military gets into the southern part, they will easily be able to push out the Spanish and even take some of the Spanish land. And the German and Italian militaries will also push out most of these enemy troops, except the fact that southern Italy will be taken by the Turks, and a small part of Germany will be taken by the Russians. Also, if you guys are questioning me about where I got this information of which nations are supposed to be top 10, top 20, I have found on the internet. I don't really know where I found it, but I found it somewhere on the internet. So they'll conquer this part, not the whole thing, just only this part. One sec. Yeah. So these parts will be conquered by the Turks. Anyway, after seeing what happened here, India and China make up a united force along with Japan and South Korea and push into Russia. And because Russia cannot defend from four nations attacking at the same time, it will capitulate. Now, this war might end pretty quickly because Russia will not have any support of its allies, and major of its allies are on the blue team, like Russia, India. So yeah, that's going to be the case. Next will be Japan, who will make a landing on Sakhalin. I forgot to mention that Sakhalin is a part of Russia, but yeah, they take out Sakhalin. Then they move into this peninsula, and another landing is made over here in northern Siberia, and they cut off that part and join it to the Allied front. Next will be India, who will send troops from here and will corner the Russians by taking out one of their many places. But yeah, and then there'll be a united front of all three of these nations, along with South Korean troops in little amounts. And after seeing how weak the Russians are on this side, Germany and Italy also decide to push back and they take back their old lands. And seeing what are happening to Russia, Turkish troops form a line over here on the main western part, along with the United Front, causing some terrifying, terrifyingly massive air raids, eventually making them being able to conquer this land. And this much land being controlled by the Turkish government. This being a massive loss for the red side, and another loss being that Spain completely capitulates without any Russian or Turkish support. Proves to be a big hit for the red side, who's only left with a couple of members like Mexico, Brazil, Turkey, because Russia is gone, the government is gone, Saudi Arabia, Australia, and Indonesia. So yeah, this proves to be a major bad thing for them. And speaking of Saudi Arabia, they send bunch of ships which land in the Indian state of Gujarat and Maharashtra, and they also send a plane, and they managed to take this specific part of India under their control because the Indian government, Indian troops are all up north, and they're returning home after the war against Russia. But yeah, they managed to claim this land. And when the Indian army gets in, they're having a hard time beating them out because they already secured their claim on this land from a while. But eventually, when the Indian army gets support from Indian people inside their region, the land quickly falls, and Saudi Arabian troops run back home. And India also sends an expedition out. They want to go to Saudi Arabia, but instead, the ship wrecks itself, goes through the Suez Canal, and hits onto southern Turkey. After the troops realize where they are, they start a united front alongside the European nations. European nations who move ships through the Mediterranean Sea, and then here starts the conquest of Turkey. They quickly managed to conquer the southern parts of the southern coast of Turkey because it's a united effort. After they cut off Turkey from the Mediterranean, they also sent some expeditions into southern Russia, and the front is broken with Chinese and Japanese troops pushing in through and conquering most of Russia, and then eventually all of it. And Turkey's government collapses eventually because their economy starts collapsing again, and they also fall. Now, realizing what's happening, the rest of the nations gather up a team. They start sending troops to each other's nations, so there'll be a protection for everyone. And then Mexico starts bordering up here with more and more troops so they don't get invaded. But this makes the US feel threatened and they declare war. They were already at war, but this makes the US actually start fighting. And so here the war goes. They push down south, but the Mexican army retaliates and goes ahead and claims the rest of California. They cut off California from the US and they unify with their old past land. And this becomes a significant loss for the US, who decides to halt the war with them until they can officially start. And this gives Mexico the advantage, and they start making a larger push, eventually taking up all this land away from the US. And as Canada sees this, and as Brazil also sees this, Brazilian troops start coming here. Now this makes the US look a bit weak. They aren't this weak in reality, but just so that the war becomes just so that this becomes a little more entertaining to watch and doesn't get boring, I'm doing this. In reality, this thing cannot happen actually because many of these nations are allies, strategic allies, like how India and Mexico are allies, India and Brazil are allies, Russia and Brazil are allies, China and Brazil are allies, the US and Brazil are allies. So in this way, this war cannot be possible. And plus, they are above all, Switzerland is neutral, and they never will break the neutrality. And then the Canadian American troops unify and they push them back all the way to the start. Not all the way to the start, but even worse. Mexico loses a lot of land, their own land actually, original land. And after seeing what happened, Mexico can't fight much. The country gets divided into half. This half falls first, and the other half falls later, and that officially ends the war in North America. After this, the US starts its own. This time, the US actually wins and claims its own territory. They send an expedition. They send their troops into South America to defeat Brazil. After taking up this northern region of Brazil, they also claim the island. I forgot this island's name exactly, but yeah. They also send air raids on. They also start gaining support of the public, telling them that but the Brazilian government isn't working towards them. And they gain quick support of the people. And they also started a lot of air raids in most of Brazil. Basically, Brazil, but which is the part of Brazil which is not exactly covered by the rainforest. So yeah, they gain a lot of people's support. Rebellion start, and the whole country eventually collapses. This is very unrealistic, though, but it happens. And now there are only three nations left. Now there are only three nations left. Australia decides to surrender because they don't want to lose any territory. Indonesia decides to join them, and Saudi Arabia, being the last member of the red side, still decides to fight on. And as usual, they not as usual, but and as the other as they don't have any allies, they eventually just lose the war. With a large amount of protests starting in the nation of Saudi Arabia, there's a very large protest that begins in the capital. They can't really continue with the war after that because the people want them to surrender. And most of the nation gets covered with the protests, and the country eventually surrenders. Now that's the end of the war. Every single nation here has been taken away by the blue side. Thank you.